Thanks everyone for joining, and this is our first community meeting in 2022. And we hope you all had a good break and coming energized for our open metadata project. Behind the scenes, we have been working hard on building like a lot of new features. You might have noticed by following the GitHub, there is webhook events. Any metadata change events that are getting published can be sent to webhook registration. Excuse me. And we are working on manual lineage features and a bunch of other things that's coming into 0.8 release. We'll be releasing the 0.8 in a couple more weeks, Jan 26 to be precise. We will have another meeting at that time. We'll go more detail and do a demo as well and walk through of all the features that we are doing in 0.8. Apart from that, we are also building the roadmap, which will be publishing by next week. It will be great for you to kind of take a look at the roadmap and come to community, Slack or whatnot, give us some direction. And if you do not see your favorite feature, it's the right time to chime in. So that's pretty much from kind of a short update from our side, what we are doing. In today's meeting, Matt, who's been contributing for a long time in the project and doing a lot of interesting work, is going to present about policies today. And after that, we have Sachin, who's working on the manual lineage. He will demo the really awesome UI, probably the first ever seen in the metadata aspect, to how do you construct the lineage by the users through a drag and drop UI. So that's our agenda. Yeah, I think one more thing we want to kind of call out here is, at every meeting, we are kind of looking at how, the contributions are coming in. And we have seen like a lot of awesome contributors coming in and chiming, and not just through the code, but through the PRs, and support feature requests, whatnot. We will take this opportunity with Matt, who's been in the project from very first beginning. I think he sent an initial patch immediately after we open sourced, and continue to not just nurture the community, but also through the PRs and talking to the users who are answering the users and everything else. So with that, we want to make Matt an official committer. And he has done more than enough. Should have already a committership, but we'll take this as an opportunity to make Matt an official committership. And Matt, thanks for everything you have done, and welcome.
Matt is the first external contributor to the project. He contributed something within an hour of we announcing the open source. Matt, we are very thankful for all the contributions you have made.
Thanks. That was a pleasant surprise. So looks like we're ready to get going with the demo.
Yes. Yeah. So you should be able to share screen now.
Awesome. I'll start with some quick introduction about myself. I'm Matt. I've been at Uber for 5 years with the data infrastructure team. Mostly work on like getting data infrastructure running and working at Uber. And in the last one and a half years, I've been looking into metadata and data lifecycle at Uber. My main work has been on introducing policies on open metadata, and I have a very short slide deck, but we'll spend most of the time in running commands and going through the demo. In terms of policies, we have two different types of policies. We have access control policy and lifecycle policies. For the purpose of this demo, we'll look at access control policy, and specifically a use case around role-based access control for metadata operations. And also feel free to stop me anytime and ask questions. I want this to be an interactive session. Getting into some core concepts before we jump into the demo, so what is a role-based access control for metadata operation? I put together a very simple diagram which shows the different entities that we are dealing with. There's a user entity, and we have multiple different types of different users in the system. And we are introducing this new entity called role. A user has a role. In this example, Aaron happens to be a data steward, and you can assign a policy for that role. And the policy may say, hey, policy would have a set of rules. It will say, this role has access to update the description, update tags, and so on. So these are different metadata operations that can be done by this role. We haven't enumerated all of them yet. We added a couple of operations into the main branch recently, and we are working on iterating and expanding this set. Going through a few examples.
Matt,
Yeah.
quick question.
Mhm.
In terms of roles,
Mhm.
you expect everybody who's using OpenMetadata to define their own roles, right?
We will have a standard set of rules to begin with for some common roles that we know of. So we'll have maybe 2 or 3 roles with their rules, and then it's open for others to add a new role and a set of rules.
Okay.
So that's what we'll focus on. So we'll focus on a few examples on how this can be used. So typically we have different types of users. Admins and bots are given a basic pass-through for any operation that they want to do for admins and bots as possible. We are looking at introducing.
So bots.
Mhm.
I think just chiming in, we are modeling a lot of things that can do workflows on behalf of the users as bots. Currently, we have a bot called ingestion bot, and that's the bot that actually connects to various data sources and ingest the metadata. So we can, this is a way of modeling, different kind of functionalities that are automated in the system as bots, and then bots have, some, admin privileges so that they can write and read and things like that. So, but go ahead, Matt.
So we are introducing a data steward role as part of this feature, and we will add some rules for that role. We are going to look into examples such as updation of certain different parts of the metadata. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to pick update description as the operation that we'll work through. It's coming in the next couple of slides. And you'll see that other users may not have the permission to update description types, but they have the permission to suggest and follow unfollow data set. So these are some of the examples that I want to throw out there, just food for thought. But like Suresh was asking before, a combination of policy and role can support any custom thing that that suits the organization. Jumping into a quick architectural overview before the next slide is on the demo. We have a few components that we are touching as part of this change. There are 2 flows, which is one in red and one in blue. Not going to go through all the entire details. There's a lot of details on this GitHub issue in 1940. But the 2 flows that I want to point out, the first flow, an admin would be able to define policies through the policy API, and which will be stored in the database itself. And any open metadata user all calls will go through the authorizer, which would be, and we will parse out some of the entity information and metadata operation from the call, run it through a policy evaluator, which is based on all the rules that are predefined by the admin. And basically it will say, hey, this person has permission or does not have permission to access the resource. So that's quick architectural overview. And now we get into the demo. Any questions so far before we jump into terminal and API calls? Okay. I have a few cases listed out here, and we'll walk through them. There's a series of commands that I have on my other screen that we'll be running to do this demo. So what I set up a few things up from the beginnings, especially in terms of running the Docker instances for Elasticsearch and MySQL. I have a terminal over here for running the commands, and I have Postman set up with a set of series of API calls that we'll walk through. To begin with, I'm going to start running OpenMetadata in secure mode with the default authorizer enabled. There's also this catalog OpenID authorization request filter, which basically allows us to use a header, an HTTP header, to indicate which user it is. The same feature would work for JWT filters as well, but for the ease of this demo, I'm going to use the catalog OpenID authorization request filter. The main changes went into the default authorizer. There's an API that is getting added, which is this has permissions API. There's another old has permissions API. This is an overloaded function, which has the entity reference to the entity itself and the metadata operation. As mentioned before, there's a new policy evaluator class being added, and within the class is where all the magic happens in terms of looking into the policies and hold on, I'm not in the class yet. Yeah, looking into the rules. There's a mini rules engine which runs through all the rules and basically provides the response saying, hey, this person has permission or not. With that said, I'm going to start OpenMetadata in secure mode. Okay. So the first thing that we'll do is I have the email variable set up for OpenMetadata. I'm using admin for now. Going to look through what's in there. So I have this header set up. I'm going to query if there are any users at the moment. So there are a couple of users. There's admin and there's ingestion bot. And oh, there's also Suresh, who's also an admin. So we have three users to begin with. And in the tables, we probably do not have any data to begin with. So I'm going to ingest some sample data for the purpose of the demo. And we'll work off the sample data for running through the use cases. We should be starting to see tables come in already. We'll pick one random table to work with. Most likely we'll pick this first one, the DIM address itself. And we should have more users as part of the sample data. One thing you would notice is I'm also querying this field called roles, which is recently added. So you'll see, going back to my slide deck, I'm using Aaron as a data steward and Alexa as a normal user for the purpose of the demo. You'll see Aaron Johnson, I have pre-configured the role as data steward, and you'll see Alexa somewhere below over here, who doesn't have Alexa Jordan, who doesn't have any role at all. So with that said, I have configured the variable email as admin. So we'll walk through the first use case. The admin can update a description on the table. We're going to pick the table with this UUID, the DIM address. Currently, there's a very long description of what that is, and we're seeing if this can be updated by the admin. So I have this patch request on the tables. Bring the UUID in here. I've also configured the header, this email, which refers to the admin email. There's a body that I pre-configured for the patch. It will be updated as some description given by the person who updated it. As we send this request, you'll see some description was given by admin. So we completed the first use case. This is working. Now, since OpenMetadata got adopted in this company, now we have Aaron, who joins as a data steward. So
Matt, can you get the table and show the description?
Yes. Let me try this. Improvise a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So once this is done, we want to onboard Aaron to try this out. So we said, let's go ahead and assume that Aaron has logged in. I need to pick Aaron's email address from here. So as I change this variable, assume that Aaron has logged in. Apparently, we don't have a UI yet, so everything is API based. So currently, Aaron is a logged in user. And Aaron comes here and queries the table. He's able to query the table. He sees that here this description is not correct. So Aaron comes in and hits the API or changes something on the UI, which eventually hits the API and sends a call. Apparently that got rejected. We got a 403 exception. It's not authorized. So Aaron reached out to the admin and said, "Hey, I'm the data steward. I'd like to have full access to get this going." So the admin comes back into, so the user already has a data steward role as part of the ingestion. The admin comes in and configures this policy. I made it very simple for the purpose of the demo. We have one single policy called data steward role policy. And what we're doing over here is we are defining one rule saying, allow data steward to update description on any entity. And as an admin, since I don't have a UI yet, I'm going to use a simple workflow to ingest this policy into OpenMetadata. So I have all of this pre-configured, so I can run this command. And a new policy was added. We are going back as admin to see if that policy was added. Policies. So we have a new policy. What I mentioned before was we will allow data stewards to update description. I also want to point out that since everything is running in secure mode, if we turn off this header, we'll start getting 403 exceptions. So it works as usual. None of those change. Now we are going to, as an admin, you go back to Aaron and say, "Hey, you've been given access. Can you give it a try?" So Aaron comes back and logs in. Aaron has logged into the system. And we go back to the patch tables request, which failed in the past. And we go ahead and send a request for that. Still failed. It takes a few seconds to load the new version of the policy. Let me take a look at this. I might have hit a bug somewhere. This is fine. Interesting. This was supposed to work. It was working yesterday, so I might have hit a bug somewhere with the change.
Can you refresh the policy again? Like the ingest? Or yeah, take a look at.
I hope I set it to enable.
Yeah, so where is data steward here? Yeah, okay. So spelling is right.
Let me see if this is running in the correct mode. It's happening here. I'm restarting this. Might have had some issue with. I might have left the debugger on since last night, so restarting the.
Late
Might
night
be another
coding.
instance running.
Sorry? Yeah, late night coding.
Demos are always fun like this.
Yeah, I was actually telling Perry that, hey, I've done this reversal like a couple of times and it's working. And and I was telling sometimes it won't work during the demo. So I think we hit that. Okay, so let's give this a try. All right, so now it's working.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I left the debugger on from last night. I shouldn't have. So now everything's loaded.
No worries. This is awesome demo so far.
Yeah. So we have Aaron Johnson, who was able to update the description before he was getting a 403. So now that the policy is in place, we covered the second use case. Now let's talk about Alexa. Alexa is a new user who joins the company, and off the bat, She hasn't been given any roles. She's just a normal metadata user. So Alexa logs in.
So there was a question from Kurt, screen share. Kurt, I'm not sure. We are able to see the screen. Are you not able to see it?
Soon after he took off debugging, I went back to just photos of all of you, which is great, but I can't see the screen anymore.
I'm still sharing the screen.
I can
Okay.
see it.
Must be my end. Sorry.
Okay. So we're going to get Alexa to log in and try out a few commands. So Alexa is logged in, and Alexa is going to try getting the information of this dim address table. So Alexa can see that the last update was done by Aaron. And Alexa figured out that, hey, I want to try updating this description. So Alexa is currently logged in. We have the patch API again. The new login user is Alexa. I also want to point out again that Alexa doesn't have any role assigned to the person. So we're going back to patch API in an attempt to update this description as Alexa. So Alexa doesn't have permission. We got a 403 error as expected. And you will see that the information over here.
A pretty nice message there. So,
yeah.
In response.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the table?
Mm-hmm.
So just want to make sure that it started with 0.1, the version is 0.3, updated by Aaron Johnson, and then updated at time. All of that is given, right? So right there.
We also have change description and everything going on. So you'll see admin updated first and Aaron updated.
Awesome.
So we walked through this use case. Now let's say the last use case. For some reason, the admin said, hey, I'm gonna clean up data steward role or do something else, and says, I want to disable this policy, disable this rule altogether. So we can do that. Access control. Just say, there are different ways to do it. So this allow false means deny, like explicitly deny. You can also remove the entire rule altogether, and then it works the same way. Because if if there's no rule defined as allow equal to true, it uses it defaults to allow equal to false for any metadata. So we are going to re-ingest this policy. We re-ingest the policy. Point the user doesn't matter because policies can be queried by anyone. You'll see the change description. There's an old and new value. Particularly, the current value is that data stewards cannot allow equal to false, so data steward cannot update description anymore.
You can also do enable disable for the rules, right? You don't have to delete them. You can just disable them also. There's an enable flag. Okay.
Yes. That is also in the logic. So I'm actually filtering for enabled equal to true or false before running the policy evaluation.
So that way you can keep the rules around, but you just disable them, and then you can do something else later.
Yes, and the good part is that you can disable at a rule level, or you can disable the entire policy as well.
Got it.
Yeah, that's all.
Awesome.
So let's go ahead and log in as Aaron, and then see if Aaron can update description.
Well, now it's your time to see if this works. No pressure.
Actually, I was telling Harsha that, hey, the negative, I don't know if it was Harsha, but I told someone that the negative use case started working first, and then the positive use case started.
We'll see now.
So I'm fairly confident that this will work, but let's see. So you'll see Aaron is not able.
The negative case is supposed to work first if you're doing test-driven development. You always want to fail the test and then succeed.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly how I started. Initially, I didn't have all these API calls, so I wrote the test code and I was doing TDD to get this sorted out. So we have come to the end of the demo. I have one more slide about what's overall status of this feature. almost all of the backend related PRs have been merged so far. I still have a couple of PRs on my local and in draft mode, which needs to go in. I foresee that all of this will go in within a week or so. I've opened an issue for the UI book. Haven't really thought through it, but open to feedback, comments, and let's take it from there. Any questions? I'll stop sharing.
Quick question, Matt. So we will be supplying some default policies along with the rules, right?
Yes.
Like most of our users are running in security mode. They probably want things to be working, especially if they are installed in 0.7. They're upgrading to 0.8. The things to be working in the similar fashion.
Yeah, so we'll need to keep it backward compatible, and to make everything compatible, we'll have to define some standard policies and standard rules.
Matt, so far you showed policies for access control within OpenMetadata, but I think we need at some point in time two things. One is you have lifecycle policies right now, and then the policy metadata that you have defined becomes a way to capture policies in other systems as well, right? And it is the basis for even making policies, let's say, defined in AWS, GCS, things like that. We'll be able to crawl them and make them available for discovery purposes within OpenMetadata, right?
Yes, yes.
That was the base. Go ahead.
I was saying that was the original intent when we started looking into policy. Then pivoted very quickly to enable this feature because it was more of a customer request.
So certainly we should have, maybe when we get to a mature state where we crawl and publish the policies from outside systems into OpenMetadata for discovery, more deep dive from you and demo from you on that. That would be awesome.
Definitely, I think that's coming up after we get this out of the door. So. Cool.
Hey Matt, this is the coolest demo so far in OpenMetadata because we always show through UI. This one shows it through the APIs and the inner workings. So, better for developers.
I took a stab at doing the UI for this, and then I realized I'm too rusty on the UI. So
yeah,
I'm still around another engineer to help out on the UI. So glad that there's positive feedback on it. Again, finding out the GitHub issues, we have 1940. Feel free to add comments and feedback on GitHub. All right, back to you, Harsha.
Thanks, Matt. That was awesome. And with that, we'll throw to Sachin. We'll do another cool demo on manual lineage. Sachin, do you want to present? Share your screen.
Yeah, sure. So let me introduce myself. I'm Sachin Chaurasia, and front-end developer and open source contributor. So I'm contributing to OpenMetadata from last 5 or 6 months. So let me demo the manual lineage that we have built. So, okay, yeah. So before demoing this, let me show like how we had earlier we had lineage. Let me go to this. Okay. Wait a second. I got my screen got stuck.
This is the correct sandbox available for everybody to play around with, right?
So earlier we had lineage UI like this, and now we have something like this. Yeah, so we have changed couple of things. So as you can see in previous version, we have controls like this, and for current version, we have enhance the control and also make it more visible to the user. So this is the control. And also earlier we had support for only viewing the lineage. Now we have added support for adding lineage through UI. So let me demo it. So let's say I want to add another pipeline entity. So I have to just drag and drop the node. Now here we will get search box. So let's say I will search for something dim. Now if I click, I select any one of these, then it will be inserted to the graph. And now we can connect from raw customer to dim user ETL. So it will get connected. So as you can see, we get real-time update. So let's say I want to delete this edge. We can also do that. So let me click on it. So if I click on this, so we will get prompt like this. Are you sure you want to remove edge between raw customer and dim address eater? If you want, then you can confirm. If you not, then you can cancel the operation. So I want to delete this. So I will click on confirm. So the edge got deleted. Also the corresponding nodes also got deleted. So far, this is how manually nesting will be going to work. Also,
some context around this feature. So far, traditionally, when you're looking at any of these similar systems like metadata collection or catalogs or whatnot, you have presented a lineage that is collected from the sources, right? So you're parsing SQLs, you're connecting to Airflow, and extracting that lineage and publishing into your metadata system. And for most of the users, it's just a read-only lineage graph that presented during, collected through the automated ways. With OpenMetadata, we always been saying that, hey, automation is great, which we already have. We built Lineage APIs, we built integration to several sources, including Airflow is one of the sources to extract the lineage, right? But the missing piece always been the consumer of the data, the producer of the data, the user of the data, who understands the lineage much more inherently, right? So there might be a tribal knowledge on how the raw customer is getting derived from DIM product ETL to some other entities. So no matter how much automation we can produce, there is that missing piece of users' knowledge that is inherently grown over the years. We want to capture that. So with a manual lineage like tooling like this, you would be able to kind of build the lineage and empower the users and extract this information that has been sitting in users' mind or whatnot, and putting it into one central store like OpenMetadata. So this is probably the first of this kind, and the UI, as you can see, is very slick, and we want to kind of enhance from here onwards to add more capabilities. And this would be great to give feedback on this UI. Sachin, please continue.
Additionally, right now, Lineage captures only lineage relationship, right? And that is based on what instrumentation the systems that we are connecting to offers. Some of the details are not available from the underlying systems to collect as metadata. That's one thing. The second thing is curation of lineage, right? Now, people should be able to add some annotation and description and information here to make it much more richer, so that lineage is easier to consume. People's knowledge about lineage is captured as documentation in the lineage graph itself. So that is the direction in which this UI will move. So augment what we have captured from machine metadata and augment it with users' knowledge.
Yeah. So let's say I want to delete existing edges. So I will select this one. So I will click on confirm. So we can also delete the existing edges. And as you can see earlier, the nodes were not getting position proper. So now we have node in proper position. Let me refresh the UI. So as you can see, let me add more node to it. Search for them address, and let me connect to this. So as you can see, nodes are getting proper position as soon as they got added. Also, let me add another node here. And also we are loading node incrementally. So from here we can load another downstream node if it has. So if dim address don't have any downstream node, so you will see some micro interaction there. Yeah, and for edit mode, to differentiate between edit mode and view mode, we have added this background. So as you can see, in view mode we have white background, and in edit mode we have the background with some square boxes.
Yeah, that is not very clearly visible on Zoom, but it's a grayer background boxes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much.
Right.
This is awesome, Sachin.
This is great, Sachin. Looks great.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Asha.
Thank you. Yeah, so these are a few of the features that's coming into 0.8, and as I said earlier, there are a lot more features that we are building right now, and the release is going to be on Jan 26, and we'll do a full demo once that is done. Yeah, looking forward for next week, bi-weekly meeting as well. And with that, we still have time, and would like to kind of throw it to new members of the community. And if you have any questions, any feature requests, anything you want to discuss, we'll happy to do it.
Yeah, before that, Harsha, one comment. The webhook that we have added is an interface through which you can build any application that receives all the data changes that is happening in your organization through APIs. And so one of the things that we are doing with webhook is we are doing Slack integration. So you should be able to set up Slack. And within Slack and similar systems, you should be able to publish metadata events and then keep people informed. So that's coming in 0.8. Yeah, so yeah, over to you guys if you have any questions, comments, feedback.
All right, I think if we do not have any further questions, one last request from our side. We are a budding community. We want to attract more users like you and improve the community, continue to. And if you haven't started our project, please go do it in GitHub. That will help us kind of, go through the trending and get more users attracted to the community and help us improve the community as well. So again, we can keep it for a few more minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, we can call it a day and we'll upload the recording once it's done.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for attending, and we'll post the videos.
Thank you so much. I hope those demos are really useful for you guys. And if you have any questions, please come to Slack, chime in. We are available almost 24/7 right now. So thank you again, guys. I appreciate your participation.
Thank you, everyone. Great demos. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.